At 8 a.m. on September 11, 2001, Gopher Black convened a regular briefing meeting in his office. Each week, CTC presented three separate update briefings on Al-Qaeda to CIA Director George Tenet, James Pavitt, the head of the Clandestine Science Service, and A.B. Buzzy Krongard, the agency's executive director. Rich Believe walked into Black's office. He was preoccupied by the aftermath of Ahmad Shah Massoud's assassination. Just after 8:46 a.m., Black's secretary came in to say that a private plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. Rich Believe walked across the hall to Alex Station's cluster of cubicles. "That's bin Laden or Al-Qaeda," he said, pointing to a nearby television hanging from the ceiling. There was a split verdict within Alex Station, but most of the analysts credited the possibility of an accident. Alec analysts had written warning report after warning report, briefing slide after briefing slide for the White House and the Bush cabinet. They had provided insights for the article in the president's daily brief received by George W. Bush on August 6, 2001, headlined, "Bin Laden determined to strike." They were still arguing among themselves at 9:03 a.m. when United Airlines Flight 175 struck the World Trade Center's South Tower. George Tenet raced up the George Washington Parkway to CIA headquarters at about 80 miles an hour. Tenet called ahead and asked for the agency's senior leaders to assemble in 7D64, the director's conference room at old headquarters. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 struck the Pentagon while flying about 530 miles per hour. At 9:40 a.m., Black and Deputy CIA Director John McLaughlin spoke by secure video link with Richard Black, the lead counterterrorism expert at the White House. Clark said the Federal Aviation Administration was uncertain how many other planes might have been hijacked and still in the air. CTC officers who accompanied Black upstairs mentioned to the group in 7D64 that Ramzi Yousef, the ringleader of the bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993, had once discussed flying a Cessna packed with explosives into CIA headquarters. He ordered the senior team downstairs. Around 10 a.m., he directed CIA personnel to evacuate the ground. President Bush was by now in the air aboard Air Force One en route to a Louisiana air base. Vice President Dick Cheney had been hustled into a White House bunker. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld was inside the smoldering Pentagon. Secretary of State Colin Powell was traveling in Latin America. The country's leaders communicated only sporadically, and the attack still seemed to be in progress. All summer, it had been obvious from intelligence reporting that something big and bad was coming. For weeks, Black had been thinking about how he would handle this day. He had tried to imagine in advance a moment of great pressure when a lot of people would be dead and he would have to speak forcefully to CTC's workforce and to his superiors on the 7th floor. Inside CTC, Black said that their job now was to explain to the president and his cabinet what had just happened to the United States, who did it, and what might be coming next. By noon, it was clear that the threat of additional kamikaze attacks on Washington had passed. The FBI sent over the passenger manifest for the 4 hijacked airliners by about 1 p.m. Alex Station's analysts typically divided their work by geographical region. Some covered Asia, others the Middle East or Africa. Just a few weeks earlier, while reviewing old cable draft, a known Al-Qaeda associate, Khalid al-Midhar, had obtained an American visa and flown to the United States in early 2000. He asked the FBI to look for Midhar and a colleague, Nawaf al-Hazmi, but the search had barely started. Now the analysts saw their names on the American 7-7 passenger list. In late 1999, operatives working with Malaysia's Special Branch Police had photographed clandestinely a meeting of suspected Al-Qaeda associate in Kuala Lumpur. In January, they discovered Midhar's name and the fact that he had a visa to travel to the United States. In March, he learned his colleague Hamzi's name as well and the fact that both men had already flown to Los Angeles. Yet they took no action until August 2001. Soon after, the information about Midhar and Hazmi was discovered. Doug Miller and Mark Vizzini, FBI agents assigned to Alec, drafted a cable reporting the facts to the FBI. But a CIA officer blocked them from releasing the cable. It is unclear why. These failures are an indelible part of the what-if history of September 11. The possibility that the attacks might have been stopped, that thousands of lives might have been spared, and that America's foreign policy might not have pivoted in costly directions. Yet, that counterfactual requires a context. The September 11 conspiracy succeeded in part because the democratically elected government of the United States, including the Congress, did not regard Al Qaeda as a priority.